By going to Khan Academy and going to Explore, and then under Computing we're going to click on Computer Programming and then scroll all the way down and hit New Web Page, which will take us to a basic outline of a web page for us to work with. So starting off, what is CSS? CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. It helps us make our web pages look pretty by adding colors, fonts, and layouts. You can think of CSS like the clothes your web page wears. So we're going to start with the CSS syntax, which is the building blocks. So every CSS rule is made up of 3 parts: selectors, properties, and values. The selector tells the browser which HTML element to style. The property is the aspect of the element we want to change, like its color or size. And the value is the specific style we're applying to the property. So an example of this would be this. So here the selector is P, which means all paragraphs. The property is color and the value is blue. So now let's look at understanding selectors. Selectors can be different types. Let's look at 2 important ones, one dot class and hashtag ID. So a dot class selector is when you see a period before a name, it's a class. You use classes when you want to style multiple elements in the same way. So an example of this is and in CSS we're going to add the dot box. That's the code that you put in like when you switch back and forth with CSS. So we're just gonna move down, and then so with the hashtag ID selector, when you see a hashtag before a name, it's an ID. IDs are unique. Each should only be used on one element. So an example of this would be this. And as you can see, it popped up the welcome title. And then the coding, if you're working in CSS, would be this. So that would be the coding if you're working in CSS. So the next one is colors in CSS. So two important properties we'll use are color and background color. So color is the property that sets the color of the text. So an example of this, if you're working with CSS, would be which doesn't pop up on the Khan Academy one, but if you're working with something that's more efficient, it will pop up for that. So background color is the property that sets the background color of an element. So if you're working in CSS, an example of this would be so to understand the color values, there are like different ways to define colors in CSS. So named colors, you can simply write the name of a color, such as like yellow, blue, or green. And then so there's hexadecimal values, and these start with a hashtag and are followed by 6 digits. An example of this could be hashtag FF5733, which is a kind of orange. So a tip for this is the first 2 digits are for red, the next 2 are for green, and the last 2 are for blue to determine the color that comes out. The RGB values, which are the red, green, and blue values, are written like lowercase r, lowercase g, lowercase b, and then in parentheses you put your 3 colors. So an example of this for working in CSS would be as you can see as you're typing it, it shows the color that it is. So a challenge for you is to create your own styled page. So you're going to create a simple HTML page, and you're going to have an H1 heading and a paragraph, and then you're going to apply some CSS style, use a class to style both the heading and paragraph, set a background color for your page, and then also change the color for your H1 using an ID. So I'm going to show you an example starter code. I am just going to go to a new page. So this is an example of what it would look like. So that'll be all for today. Thank you for watching.